Chapter 4. Von Kempelen and his discovery. A modern retelling. After the detailed paper by Arago and the summary in Silliman's journal, along with Lieutenant Maury's recent publications, I want to clarify that my brief remarks on von Kempelen's discovery are not intended to be a scientific analysis. First, I want to say a bit about von Kempelen himself, whom I had the privilege of knowing a few years back, since anything related to him is currently of interest. Second, I'll offer some general thoughts about the implications of his discovery. Before diving in, I should reject a common misconception, one that seems to stem from newspaper reporting, that this astonishing discovery was unexpected. If you look at the diary of Sir Humphry Davy, you'll see that he had not only conceived the same idea, but had made significant progress in the same analysis that von Kempelen has recently completed. Although von Kempelen doesn't mention this, it's clear, and I can support this, if necessary, that he owes at least a hint of inspiration to Davy's diary. I have to admit that the recent article claiming credit for this invention belongs to a man named Mr. Kissam from Brunswick, Maine, feels questionable to me. While there's nothing inherently impossible about it, the article has an air of being made up. People telling the truth about discoveries usually don't get so caught up in the specifics of dates and locations as Mr. Kissam appears to do. If he really had this discovery nearly 8 years ago, why didn't he capitalize on it immediately? It seems unlikely that anyone with half a brain would discover something groundbreaking and then act like they didn't care about the benefits, which are obvious. By the way, who is Mr. Kissam? This whole paragraph in the Courier and Inquirer feels fabricated just to stir up some buzz. It definitely gives off a needlessly exaggerated vibe. Honestly, it's hard to believe an esteemed scientist like Professor Draper would take Mr. Kissam's claims seriously. Now, back to Sir Humphry Davy's diary. This pamphlet was never meant for public view, even after he passed away, as anyone who writes can tell you just by glancing at it. For instance, at page 13, Davy writes about his research on protoxide of azote, mentioning something about respiration being diminished which, in context, just sounds wrong. It's clear he meant something more like, in less than half a minute, as respiration continued, these feelings decreased, followed by a sensation similar to gentle pressure on all muscles. Many instances like this show that this document was meant only as a personal note, not something to publish. Davy was known to avoid any semblance of quackery. He wouldn't speak out until he had substantial proof. I believe he would have been very distressed to learn that his wishes to burn this haphazard diary, filled with random speculations, were ignored. Whether this oversight was a stroke of good or bad luck remains to be seen, but I'm convinced those notes provided von Kempelen with the direction he needed for his breakthrough. Ultimately, we must consider whether this major discovery will be beneficial or harmful to society as a whole. It's clear that von Kempelen and his close circles will enjoy the rewards, likely turning their fortunes into property and valuable assets. There have been some misunderstandings in the brief overview of von Kempelen that appeared in the Home Journal, which has made the rounds lately. The translator seems to have misinterpreted some parts of the original German text. For instance, the word veal has been misunderstood, and what the translator interpreted as sorrows should probably refer to Leiden, accurately translated as sufferings. This alteration changes the overall meaning significantly, though much of this is merely speculation on my part. However, von Kempelen does not appear to be a misanthrope, at least in demeanor. My acquaintance with him was fleeting, but having met someone of his remarkable notoriety isn't something to take lightly. The literary world confidently claims he hails from Presburg, possibly based on the account in the Home Journal. I can clarify that von Kempelen was actually born in Utica, New York, although his parents might be of Presburg descent. His family has ties to Meltzel, the famed automaton chess player. Von Kempelen himself is short and stocky, with large blue eyes, sandy hair, and a broad smile, a friendly presence that contradicts the notion of him being a misanthrope. I met him about 6 years ago at Earl's Hotel in Providence, Rhode Island, and we talked for a few hours. He mainly discussed current affairs, and nothing in our conversation hinted at his scientific background. He left the hotel before me, with intentions to go to New York, eventually making his big reveal in Bremen. I can assure you that many of the sensational stories circulating about him are exaggerated, no different from tales like Aladdin's lamp. However, there is one well-documented story worth sharing. While living in Bremen, von Kempelen struggled financially, often going to extreme lengths to scrape together small amounts of money. When the forgery scandal hit Gutsmuth & Co., suspicion fell on him for having bought property in Gasperich Lane, and for dodging questions about how he acquired the funds. Ultimately, he was arrested, but without evidence, he was released. However, the police kept a close watch on him, and discovered he frequently took the same path, managing to evade his tail near a confusing maze of narrow alleys known as Dondergate. Eventually, they tracked him to a 7-story attic in an old building called Flatsplätz. When they burst in, they encountered a panicked von Kempelen, whom they believed was in the middle of counterfeiting. He was so agitated that officers felt certain he was guilty. They handcuffed him and searched his rooms. In a small closet connected to the attic, they found some chemical equipment, including a tiny furnace with lead melting in one crucible connected by a tube to another crucible containing some liquid, steaming away. When the officers arrived, they recounted how he grabbed the crucibles with his gloved hands and dumped the contents onto the tiled floor just as they handcuffed him. They searched him but found nothing remarkable other than a parcel containing a mixture of antimony and an unknown substance in near equal parts. The unknown substance has yet to be analyzed, but there's no doubt it will be one day. After taking him out of the closet, the officers proceeded through a small waiting area into his bedroom. They rifled through drawers and boxes, discovering a small stash of cash along with a large, old trunk with no locks, just a lid propped carelessly on top. When they tried to pull it out, they discovered that, despite their combined strength, it wouldn't budge. One officer crawled under the bed and peeked inside the trunk, announcing, "No wonder we couldn't move it, it's packed full of old brass pieces." Using every ounce of strength, they finally managed to slide the trunk out and examined its contents. The supposed brass was actually small, smooth pieces varying in size, and they looked oddly like lead rather than any brass they recognized. Not a single officer suspected they could be gold, and how could they have? So, it took them by complete surprise when news broke that the brass they'd dismissed was actually pure gold, finer than anything used in coinage. I won't go into von Kempelen's full confession or his release since that information is already known, but there's no doubt he achieved what has seemed like the legendary philosopher's stone. While Arago's insights are undoubtedly valuable, he isn't infallible. The truth is, nothing has been conclusively analyzed as of now, and unless von Kempelen chooses to reveal his methods, the nature of his discovery will likely remain a mystery for many years. All we can say is that pure gold can be created from lead connected to certain unknown materials. People are already speculating about the immediate and long-term implications of this discovery, a revelation that will probably rekindle interest in gold, especially after the developments in California. This leads us to consider how poorly timed von Kempelen's announcement may be. If gold's new availability in California generated apprehension about its value dipping due to excess supply, how will this revelation affect those planning to migrate there or those already in the mining regions? The idea that gold might soon be as valuable as lead and not much greater than silver changes the game significantly. As of now, the most notable results of von Kempelen's discovery in Europe have been an increase in the price of lead by 200% and a 25% rise in silver's value.